This city should not exist. It was built in a desert that gets less rain than Las Vegas. And yet, it supported 30,000 people, lush gardens, and massive swimming pools. And all this existed in a time when modern technology did not exist. The secret to this impossible city isn't just how its people found water, but how they survived a terrifying paradox that should have doomed them from the start. In the heart of the Jordanian desert, tucked away in a maze of blood-red canyons, lies a city that has no business being there. It's a ghost, carved from living rock, its massive facades staring out from the cliffs, defying both time and logic. This is Petra. For centuries, it was the stuff of legend, a buzzing center of wealth and culture that simply vanished from Western maps, its location a secret kept by the desert itself. But the biggest mystery of Petra isn't that it was lost. The mystery is that it was ever built in the first place. This is a land of extremes, a semi-arid wilderness that gets only about 4 inches of rain a year. It's a place of relentless sun and a deep, desperate thirst. And yet, right here, a city of an estimated 20,000 to 30,000 people was born. A city with not just enough water to drink, but enough for lush gardens, sparkling fountains, and a massive swimming pool complex fit for a king. It seems impossible. How do you build a megacity in a place with so little rain? The answer is a story of ingenuity so brilliant, it feels like magic. It's the story of a lost civilization that didn't just conquer the desert, they mastered it. And in doing so, they had to solve a terrifying paradox that should have doomed them from the start. They had to survive not only the crushing threat of drought, but also the sudden, violent fury of the flood. To really get the genius of Petra, you first have to understand the brutality of its home. The city is hidden deep inside a network of canyons. The only grand entrance is through the Sick, a winding gorge that snakes for over a kilometer between towering sandstone cliffs. In some spots, it's barely a few feet wide, and its walls soar up to 260 feet, blocking out the sun. It's a jaw-dropping entrance designed to make you feel small and awestruck. But this dramatic canyon held a deadly secret. While rain here is rare, when it does come, it can be catastrophic. A sudden heavy downpour can unleash a flash flood, a liquid battering ram picking up rocks and debris. The mountains around Petra act like a giant natural funnel, channeling all that water right to the mouth of the Sick. For any city built at the end of that channel, it was a death sentence waiting to happen. In modern times, before the ancient water systems were fully understood, tragic flash floods showed just how powerful that force is. A wall of water can fill the narrow canyon in minutes, a force that no person can withstand. This was the first impossible problem. How do you build your capital city at the end of a natural shotgun barrel, knowing that any rain could pull the trigger? But the second problem was the complete opposite, and just as deadly. The annual rainfall here is a mere 100 millimeters, or about 4 inches. For comparison, that's about half of what Las Vegas gets. It's barely enough to keep a few hardy shrubs alive, let alone a huge population, their animals, and the constant stream of traders on the caravan routes. There were some natural springs, but they were scattered miles away, and you couldn't always count on them. So the people who chose this spot faced a terrifying paradox. The very rain they desperately needed to survive was the same force that threatened to wash their entire city away. Any solution had to do 2 things at once. They couldn't just find water, they had to control it. They couldn't just survive the drought, they had to disarm the flood. And the people who solved this puzzle weren't a massive empire like the Romans or Egyptians. They were desert nomads who appeared on the world stage, built one of its most incredible wonders, and then practically vanished. Before they were carvers of stone, the Nabataeans were wanderers of the sand. They were a nomadic Arabian people who spent centuries moving through the deserts of the southern Levant. They didn't leave many written records behind, which makes them one of history's great enigmas. Most of what we know comes from what others wrote about them, and from the incredible story they wrote in stone and water. Around the 4th century BC, they began to settle in the canyons of Petra. Their nomadic past had given them a deep, almost spiritual understanding of the desert. They knew how to read the landscape, where to find shelter, and most importantly, where to find water. They chose Petra, not despite its challenges, but because of them. The Maze of Canyons was a natural fortress, a perfect, defensible capital for a kingdom that was getting rich by controlling the spice trade. Frankincense, myrrh, silks, it all passed through Nabataean hands, and Petra was the center of it all. They saw their city as the most exclusive and magnificent rest stop in the ancient world. And to show off their power and impress the traders passing through, they needed to create an oasis, a statement. They had to prove they hadn't just survived the desert, they had bent it to their will. Their genius came from watching. They watched how water behaved, where it flowed in a storm, how it seeped through rock. They weren't just builders, they were some of the greatest hydraulic engineers of the ancient world. And their work began at the most dangerous point, the entrance to the Asik. The first thing the Nabataeans did to secure their city was an act of pure defensive genius. Faced with the terror of flash floods roaring down the Siku, they didn't run. They built a dam. But this was no ordinary wall. Right at the entrance of the gorge, they constructed a massive diversion dam. Now, you might think the point was just to block the water, but they knew a simple wall would be smashed to bits. Instead, the dam's job was to redirect the flood. It was brilliant. They cut an 88-meter-long tunnel, that's almost the length of a football field, straight through the solid sandstone next to the dam. This hand-carved passage sent the floodwaters away from the Sek and into a different valley where the water could spread out harmlessly. The dam itself was an engineering marvel. It was built with expertly cut stone blocks without mortar, a technique called dry stone masonry. This construction had an amazing side effect. It might have allowed a tiny, controlled amount of water to seep through, preventing the buildup of the immense pressure that could have collapsed the whole structure. It was like a pressure release valve built into the bones of the dam. Think about the guts this took. Before they could even start carving their beautiful city, they had to perform open-heart surgery on the mountain itself, using hand tools to permanently alter the area's water flow. In fact, in 1964, when the Jordanian government wanted to protect tourists after a deadly flood, they built a new dam. And where did they look for inspiration? To the original 2,000-year-old Nabataean design. They followed the same brilliant principle of diversion, a silent testament to the fact that the Nabataeans had gotten it right the first time. With their city safe from the flood, they could now turn to the other problem, the crushing lack of water. Taming the flood was only half the battle. Now they had to harvest the storm. The engineering that kept Petra from being washed away is staggering, but the system they built to bring it to life is even more incredible. We're about to explore the hidden network of pipes, channels, and cisterns that turned a desert canyon into a garden city. This is the kind of lost wisdom that makes history so fascinating. If you agree, take a second to subscribe and join us on this journey. Your support helps us tell more stories just like this one. Having disarmed the flood, the Nabataeans began their masterwork, a citywide water system of breathtaking scale. Their goal was simple: not a single drop of water, whether from a distant spring or a rare downpour, would be wasted. They created a vascular system of stone and clay that gave life to the city, a network that stretched for over 30 miles. The process started far outside the city. The Nabataeans located every spring in the mountains, including one called Ain Musa, which was over 4 miles away. They also watched how rain ran off the sandstone cliffs. Then, with chisels and hammers, they started carving. They etched thousands of channels directly into the rock faces, creating a huge catchment system. When it rained, these channels would capture the water and guide it, like tiny rivers, toward the city. But getting the water to the city was just step one. Where do you put it all? The Nabataean solution was ingenious and invisible. They carved hundreds of huge, pear-shaped cisterns directly into the sandstone, hiding them under homes and plazas. Many were massive, capable of holding tens of thousands of gallons, and they were sealed with a special waterproof plaster. This wasn't just one big system, it was a decentralized grid. By placing cisterns all over the city, they made sure every neighborhood had its own local water supply. If a main aqueduct broke, the city could survive on its local stores. This redundancy was the key to their resilience. It was a failsafe against both accidents and attacks. And within this network was technology that still amazes archaeologists. Along the walls of the Siku, you can still see channels where they laid terracotta pipes. But the Nabataeans weren't just laying pipes, they were masters of pressure. They knew that sending water down a steep canyon would create too much pressure and burst the pipes, so they engineered the channels with a very precise, gentle slope. This allowed the water to flow at a steady speed without filling the whole pipe, leaving air at the top. This dramatically reduced the pressure, prevented leaks, and ensured a constant, reliable supply. They even built small basins along the way that acted as filters, letting sand and grit settle to the bottom before the cleaner water flowed on. All told, this complex system was able to collect and store a massive amount of water, estimated to be over 10 million gallons for the entire city. In a place that got almost no rain, the Nabataeans had engineered a permanent, life-giving river hidden in plain sight. The result of all this incredible engineering was nothing short of a miracle. While the desert baked outside, Petra flourished. The water so carefully collected and managed turned the city into a vibrant oasis. It was a spectacle of life in a landscape of death. For the 30,000 or so citizens of Petra, the system meant life. Clean water was piped directly to residential areas, ensuring public health. But the Nabataeans didn't stop at just survival. Water was also a symbol of their wealth and power. It was liquid propaganda. Archaeologists have uncovered a monumental garden and pool complex in the city center. The pool itself was huge, cut from the bedrock and measuring roughly 150 feet long by 75 feet wide. At its center was an island pavilion, a place for parties where the sound of cascading water would create both a serene atmosphere and a cloak of privacy. Imagine being a trader who had just spent weeks crossing the barren desert. To arrive in Petra and see not just a city, but lush gardens, fountains, and a shimmering swimming pool. It was a statement. It declared that the Nabataeans weren't just masters of the trade routes, they were masters of civilization itself. Their water systems fed bathhouses, irrigated farms, and supplied temples. Water was part of their culture, their life, their religion. This wasn't just infrastructure, it was the lifeblood of the city. The famous rock-cut architecture, the treasury, the monastery, gave Petra its identity. But it was the hidden, intricate, and nearly invisible water system that was the city's true heart. Without it, the magnificent facades would have been nothing more than sculptures in an empty canyon. The water engineering made the art, the commerce, and the life of Petra possible. The story of Petra is the story of a civilization that looked at an impossible landscape and saw potential. Where others saw a barren desert, the Nabataeans saw a canvas. Where others saw the threats of flood and drought, they saw an elegant engineering problem to be solved. They were a people so in tune with their environment that they could harness its most violent and scarce resources to create a paradise. But eventually, the world changed. The rise of sea trade bypassed the desert routes, and Petra's importance faded. A devastating earthquake in 363 AD damaged the city, and crucially, parts of its delicate water system. Without constant maintenance, the city's lifeline began to break down. Petra slowly faded, its population dwindled, and it was eventually all but forgotten by the Western world for more than 1,000 years. For centuries, it was a city of myth. But even after its rediscovery, we're still just scratching the surface of its secrets. It's popularly said that as much as 85% of Petra still lies buried beneath the sand, waiting to be discovered. What other knowledge is hidden there? What other marvels of engineering, what other secrets of this enigmatic culture are still sealed within the rock? The Nabataeans left us a powerful legacy. They proved that the limits of our environment are not fixed. They're defined by our own ingenuity. In an age where our own world faces growing challenges of water scarcity, the story of Petra feels more relevant than ever. It's a reminder that sometimes the most profound solutions come not from fighting nature, but from listening to it. The rose-red city, half as old as time, still has so much to teach us. We just need to be willing to look and to dig.